When it comes to finding awesome solutions that get bass into your Jeeps and trucks, we found one that you may not know about yet, but you will after today. It's called Last Resort Fab. They're based out of Canada, and they're coming to you with awesome solutions for enclosures, specifically for all the popular trucks out there. This is CMA Networks presented by SiriusXM, Last Resort Fab, and it starts now. Hey guys, welcome to another CMA Network session here presented by SiriusXM. We've wandered into the Jeeps and trucks conversation. And one of the things that installers and shops are always looking for are great solutions to be able to deliver bass, yes, subwoofers into customers who have trucks. Trucks are such a popular platform. The space is limited and, the options out there. I mean, unless you're thinking about getting into doing a full custom box, well, there's something I need to tell you. We have a solution. There is a team who is working on custom style fabricated enclosures right here in Canada, and we're going to tell you all about them today. We have the owner of Last Resort Fab with us today. He's been on before, Mr. BRYCE LEWIS. BRYCE, I'm really excited you're here. I'm so happy that you've gotten to this game. Tell the folks who are tuning in what exactly we're going to be covering today.
Thanks, Ben. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate the time to talk about some of our new products. We're going to break down some of our lines and make it a little clearer for applications for the dealers, and just have a chance to explore all the up and coming products that we have coming to market soon.
Now, I had a chance to see and talk to BRYCE about his plans. We're going to find out. But first, a quick word from our sponsor, SiriusXM, reminding you dealers out there why it's so important that you are an SXM dealer. When we come back, Last Resort Fab.
Hey guys, Ricky Lima here from SiriusXM. I had a chance to speak to some dealers and ask them what they love about selling SiriusXM. Here's what they had to say.
Coast-to-coast coverage.
I love SiriusXM for commercial-free music.
It's a great add-on sale and a profit opportunity.
We love selling SiriusXM because you can listen to the same channel coast to coast.
Profitability and ease of installation. It's a no-brainer.
We love selling SiriusXM for its ease of installation, great profitability, and reliability.
People love it.
Let's get into the product because I know I'm excited to learn about it and some of the details. So what exactly are the details around your enclosures? Because I think that's where we want to start. And what are some of the features that really make them stand out for some of the more, generic enclosures that are out there right now?
Well, I think it's been important that from the beginning, our enclosures have been proven to set records in SPL, to hit certain points in SQ competitions. Anything that's bred out of competition, that's where you get to compare side by side what other people are able to pull out of gear and equipment. And for us, it's always been an emphasis that the enclosure has to look good. It has to be built very well. But first off, it has to sound great, and it has to be built properly. And I think a lot of generic enclosures, they, especially ported enclosures, is where a lot of shortcomings show up, because to get that port length and that port surface area to allow the enclosure to not have any port chuff, to sound properly, and to make sure that people are getting a proper sound out of a ported enclosure, which is what we focus on, that it does take a lot of engineering and a lot of time. And it's important for us that we focus on being honest with ourselves, that we calculate airspace very accurately. And then we use a DATS V3, which is basically like a Thiel small parameter calculator. So we're able to load a known enclosure with known parameters and test the enclosure in the vehicle and confirm that our tuning targets are accurate. And figuring out wind speed and the ports and the surface area, that's easy. That's just math. That's not too hard. But it's important to stay realistic, and that you don't offer a 412 port enclosure that has 2-3-inch ports. It's never going to work. So it's really important that our customers understand that are different. We use a tier system, so it goes from tier 1 to tier 3. That the customers are picking the right power handling, because a lot of people don't understand that your power handling is where your port velocity really comes into play. So our tier 1s are ideally geared towards 400 or 500 watts RMS, and that's kind of the limit the enclosure. Even 500 is really the upper end. But the enclosure is meant for affordable, shallow woofers they're high efficiency. They don't need a lot of power. What they really need is they need a controlled amount of air and the right port length to make sure they're tuned properly. We see a lot of prefab manufacturers shooting at 46 or 48 hertz. They'll advertise something on the website, but if you run the math, the ports, the math doesn't lie, and a lot of manufacturers are guilty of tuning high. The reason is because a high tuned box will be very loud for a handful of songs, and it'll give a customer a false sense of output. But the problem with that, especially with us working directly with Importel, they're selling these woofers. A high tuning means the FF's the enclosure, that failure point, the tipping point where the sub and the port become out of phase to each other, and the port will start to push air as the woofer travels upwards, and it starts to suck air on the way down. So it starts to pull and push that woofer around, and people don't really, I think a lot of people misunderstand what the F3 point is. And what that is that basically the port starts to push and pull on the woofer in the opposite direction you want. So instead of creating control and limiting cone travel, it emphasizes cone travel. So that's where you have those failures, those premature failures. So it's really important that our customers get what they're paying for, and that we're 100% transparent on the tuning frequency of the enclosure, and that we're accurate in those numbers, so that when we're providing an enclosure for our customers, they're not dealing with warranty a week later because the port enclosure caused the failure of the woofer. And also high strength materials. We utilize carbon fiber and urethane. Our tier 1 enclosure, which is our entry level enclosure, even that has a lot of parts that are 1 inch. There's 5 main braces internally. In most of the enclosures, the only enclosures that don't have 5 main braces don't need them because of the shape of the box. So we're 5 main braces. They're 7/8 thick. We have a 1 inch face, a 1 inch front baffle for that sub to mount to, and that's in our entry level enclosure. So that's the only drawback is the weight. That strength doesn't come for free, and MDF is very dense, and we're utilizing only Canadian materials. Our vinyl, our carpet, our glue, everything's sourced from Canada. We're using Ranger Board Premium, the top line Canadian made MDF. So that's how we're trying to set ourselves apart from the generic enclosures, is building it a lot stronger and built properly, so we don't have resonance, we don't have that box flexing, we're not losing energy. And that the woofers are able to be protected, because cast basket woofers, when you mount them on a 1/2 inch or even a 5/8 face, you can get flexing on that, and especially if it's not properly braced, and you can crack those cast baskets. And, a lot of these cast basket subs, they're some of them are limited edition, some of them are very important. Some guys might save up months to get that one woofer they really want, and it's really important that basket doesn't break, right? So that's important to us too. And I guess really even our vinyl we order is high abrasion resistant, chemical resistant. Means that if a guy has oily work gloves, because these do go in trucks, they are work vehicles, that it's not going to stain easily, that it's not going to tarnish, that vinyl is able to tolerate the environment of a Jeep or a truck, a work vehicle.
I think you've made it abundantly clear the sheer amount of detail and thought and experience that are going into your designs. So let's get into the breakout so dealers can understand what exactly is available to order and what is the different tiers that you've designed.
So we use the tier system to set ourselves apart. It breaks down tier 1. The focus is on affordability versus quality. So we didn't want to compromise quality, but we had to find a way to meet a certain price point. And, it is a huge challenge to make a cost-effective product. for us to make a $4,000 subwoofer enclosure, well, time isn't as important, and you can use any material you want. But to make a high quality product, to hit a certain price point, to get to the dealer at a certain point that the customer can justify spending, it does take a lot of checking the boxes, make sure efficiencies are there. So tier 1, the focus is that it's built very strong. We still have a 1-inch front baffle. We still have 1-inch front and sides, 5/8 top that's braced every 10 inches or so. There's 5 main braces internally in most of the enclosures, unless they absolutely don't need them. But generally speaking, we aim for five braces. They're 3/4 inch braces. So it's very, very well built, very strong. We always joke we can park a pickup truck on our tier 1 without having it break. So that's, a testament to how strong they are. So the tier 1 does have certain features that are unique to it. The tier 1s are ported or sealed, and the customer gets to decide. So it comes with a port plug that bolts in with some nice finished Allen screws, and the dealer can either plug the ports and run it sealed, or they can run it ported, depending on which woofer they're putting in it. We are focused on the Importel line. That being said, that we do have other popular subwoofer options that will be shortly available. So we're focusing on the Importel woofers first. That's the first thing. But we will have an offering in some of the other popular woofers. People will know that they don't have cutouts to fit easily. So we'll have a separate SKU in tier 1 to order for certain manufacturers. If they have square cutouts or whatever, we have a different solution, and that it will be still tier 1 enclosure built the same way, just with a different SKU number for the dealers to order. This is going to be quite clear in the name. So tier 1 still uses the same high quality vinyl, still uses high strength material. So Ranger Board Premium, it still has rounded corners. Where we save some money is we use the same radius on all the tier 1s. So the fit is good. It's not perfect though. The length comes up a few inches shorter to save some money on shipping and on manufacturing. But that being said, it still looks great because the rounded corners kind of blend in nicely to the shape of the seats. So that's kind of where we decide to save money, is actually just in dimensions, and in some of the little, we don't get absolutely every ounce of airspace out of that vehicle. We get enough airspace to utilize the woofers that we're targeting to, shallow, low power handling woofers. But at the same time, there are compromises in output, but not in sound quality and not in build quality. So you're really just going to lose dBs. You're not going to lose the sound quality. It's tuning still on par. It's still a good tune. We generally aim for 38 hertz in these tier 1s out of the vehicle. In the vehicle, can range from 36 to 38. So typically our tuning frequency stays pretty close to what we aim for. Then we get into tier 2. We start to get to magnet bump outs. So the magnet bump out allows us to mount not just shallow woofers, but certain medium-sized woofers. The porting surface area more than doubles. So you go from a 400 watt power handling enclosure to upwards of 1,300 watts, 1,500 watts on the high end. And when I say the wattage power handling of the enclosure, I just mean the porting, where you're going to start to hear that chuff out of the ports that has given customers a sour taste. In our experience dealing with customers, some customers say, "Oh, I don't want ported," because in the past, it chuffed, it sounded funny. And that's just lazily built enclosures or people putting the wrong subs or too much power in enclosure. So for us, we want our dealers to understand that when we give the power rating, it's not because of the strength, it's because of the port surface area. That's what we're targeting to. And of course, you can only fit so big of a woofer with certain changes. Some of our innovations that follow through in the tier 2 is that like in our Ford boxes, we have a curved top that's sort of our own patented design. It's our own in-house thing that we've been doing for a long time. We're doing it in such a manner that we're not removing strength. and we're allowing for the maximum airspace in that enclosure, but still fits against the seat like factory. We want to make sure that the customer is really impressed on how perfect it fits around everything, and all the contours and radiuses match. Tier 2 enclosures, a Chevy radius is different than a Ford radius, different than a Jeep or Dodge radius. So each radius of the round corners is specific to vehicles. And then we get into a composite. Originally, we were doing a wood bump out when we were at the CMA show when we first released some samples, but we've since decided to go to a composite top to allow for a little bigger woofer in the tier 2 to allow our customers to have a better value. And then I guess one thing I forgot to touch on in tier 1, I'm just going to go back for a second, is we are adding LED lighting throughout the full line. So that is going to be from front to back. So you have LED lighting options front to back. And then when we get into tier 3, what we get into is carbon fiber tops. We have exposed carbon options. We have seat lifts. In Dodge Ram 2003 to 2023, the bucket style, the Ram Classic style that's been going for so long. We have a bucket delete option that we have that allows for very large woofers. We did for Vibe Car Audio, we did 2 W710s ported to spec under the seat of a Dodge Ram with a small seat lift. So, crazy builds in tier 3, exposed carbon. We have laminated aluminum mounting surfaces for the sub. So you get a 1/2-inch aluminum plate to mount to, laminated into into a 1.5-inch mounting surface. You get crazy lighting options, lots of customization throughout the line. So with tier 3, also including the price is a consult phone call. So that means the dealers get to talk to me directly. They get to express the customer's wants. We get to have some back and forth, some face-to-face, either Zoom call or phone call or emails. I do find that phone calls do work a little better because there's lost in translation in text. But tier 3 is really for your wild, crazy stuff. Some of the tier 3 enclosures that we've done in the last year have been over $5,000 bill outs. So they can get pretty crazy. And, if you would have asked me a couple of years ago when we started this little business in the middle of COVID, I had no idea what I was doing. I would have never guessed that I'd ever sell a $5,000 subwoofer enclosure. And in the last year, we've done 5 or 6 of them. I think I have 2 in the shop right now. So as far as what customers want, it's important for our dealers to know that the quality is there, that the product they pay for, they're getting value no matter what they're buying. But it's also important for our dealers to test the waters and to have that product available, because I don't think a lot of our dealers undersell what their customers are willing to spend to have something unique. Now, you can't charge $5,000 for a piece of wood with 4 corners, top and bottom. It doesn't work like that. But when you build something really special and you have those elements like exposed carbon, billet aluminum, machined aluminum, laser cut inserts, all those sort of details, full customization that is unique to the customer, you'd be surprised what the customer will be willing to pay, because I sure was.
Bryce, hearing you talk about all these little extras like the lighting and the exposed carbon, I mean, these are all things that get people excited. So I love hearing that you've put in that type of detail and that type of value into some of these higher tier boxes. Now, I want to pick your brain a little bit. Can you share with us maybe 2 or 3 of the most popular movers so dealers have an idea, maybe towards planning or inventory, for example?
Yeah, I'd love to have a chance to explain some of the popular models that we've had great success with, and I'm sure our dealers will too. First off, is we touch base. I've got a little picture here to show you. This is the Tier 1 F-150 enclosure. So this just kind of shows the fitment and the quality of the design. And this shows that the fitment's still very good, even though it's a Tier 1 product. It kind of also shows where the shortcomings are, not necessarily shortcomings, but the compromises that we do to make a price point. So it shows where it sits in the cab, so the dealer understands. I think it's transparent. I've seen other shops move enclosures around to make the fitment better, and that's not what we're after. We're after being honest and showing how the fitment is. And if customers are really concerned about fitment, they can go to the next level up. And here you see what we call a signature series. The fitment is a lot better. We chase after the airspace in every aspect we can. This particular 4 enclosure had 2 ground zero hydrogen 8s. It produced 144 on term lab. We tested here in house. It was a fantastic producer. Now this next enclosure is the new generation RAM 1500, the flat floor RAMs. This is shows you that we have solutions for both cubbies and non-cubbies. So the storage bins in the floor, sometimes a concern to customers. Some guys use it for storing, everything from some drinks for the lake to detail supplies or even tow straps and that kind of stuff. You want to keep the clutter down in the vehicle. So this shows that we have, I'll show you this picture here is the one that allows us for having certain 10-inch subs that function well in small airspace, and you get to keep the cubbies working, but it's a ported enclosure still. So it's a great option with good output and actually tunes very well. The real difficulty for us was actually just getting ports into the thing that were long enough because we're short on airspace on that one. And then this next picture here, this is the same vehicle, but this is what we would call, again, another signature build of ours. This particular one has 3 8s in it, and it showcases our attention to detail to get those customers their personalized enclosures the way they want. So this one utilizes a design that copies or mimics the Ram Rebel or Warlock grill on the new 1500s, and encourages stores. Now this particular one, it shows the brand of the vehicle, but we can put store logos in there and have the lighting. And another important thing that I want to touch on is that all our lighting, we really try not to have any hot spots. That I come from the old school where I like that nice even glow of neon, and neon tubes are awful to work with. But LEDs can have that really nice even glow where you don't actually see the bulbs. It just takes our attention to detail to make sure that customer doesn't ever see where the light source is coming from, that they can only see the glow, the natural glow. And so we try really hard to make sure that happens on especially all our high-end enclosures. Now, this here is our Tier 1 Dodge Ram enclosure. And so we kind of went a little different direction because these enclosures for us are very difficult because, as everyone knows, most people gravitate towards fiberglass to make that good use of that airspace under that seat. The seat is very close to the storage area itself. And so you can see in these pictures what we've done is we've come up with a enclosure that is downfiring. So we actually mount the subs in the cubbies firing down. And that was in order to get certain sizes and certain airspace requirements that we need for these enclosures, but also hit a price point because, in that Tier 1 product that we're selling it as affordable as we can, it's still, a leatherette wrapped, it's still high quality, thick materials, lots of bracing, ported. But at the same time, we need a kind of a clever way. So we came up with our own solution. So we're downfiring into the storage bins, and that creates a good loading environment for the woofers. We find they get a little extra output that way. And it also provides a little bit of protection because we do hear from our customers that when they want to lift those seats up and put everything from a blow up unicorn for little Sally at the lake to toolboxes to whatever, that they're able to now use that top area as storage. And so in this last one, this is the new generation Chevy trucks. You know what? It's a pretty easy truck to build for. We have tons of height. We don't have really any height constraint. We can fit a ton of woofers in there. We can do 4 arc audio sealed up firing or down firing. We can do 4 ported shallow 10s, entry level 10s. The sky's the limit. So this guy here, I'm not saying that, we didn't really have to, rethink the mold on this one. This is a pretty straightforward truck to build for, but, we're trying to come up with the highest output solutions and focus on having our dealers have that as kind of the focus point on those trucks is that. And now the other thing that we offer storage bin solutions in a lot of our enclosures and some of our signature boxes as well. So for some of these trucks too, some guys don't want to utilize that under seat store space because they say, I'm going to use that for storage. And we all know what that means. It's going to be filled with booster cables and loose sockets and wheel nuts and a wheel lock key that's going to roll around and get lost. so we always tell the customers that say, I need storage, for the most part, lots of times all that means is basically just half the enclosure. Really, it's a 60-40 split after wood, but the customer gets a pretty good size storage bin, and we make the storage bin out of plastic, so it is removable. So if the customer does say put a liter of or half a liter of tranny fluid or oil in there, that if it spills, it can be cleaned out. So we try to make we think through what it's like to live with our products for 5-6 years. And the last thing we want is, a thing of oil gets spilt in there, and especially like transmission gear oil, it stinks. It's going to soak in the wood, and it's going to smell forever. So we wanted the customers to have some protection that way. So yeah, so that's how we kind of address that for the customers that say, oh, I don't want to lose that underseat storage. You know what? Talk reasonably to them and say, are you actually going to use all that, or are you just going to put some stuff that's going to roll around? Because now at least they have a safe place to put things that won't roll around. In the event of a rollover, it doesn't become a weapon either. So, that all those things are important to address with the customer. So
now, above and beyond these amazing enclosures, there's also a selection of different items and accessories. The first one we're going to talk about are unique adapter plates. What's this all about, Bryce?
Yeah, Ben, I mean, us in the industry, we're putting these $1,000 speakers or more, sometimes even $300 speakers, nothing to joke about. People work hard for their money, and it's important to maximize that. But the problem is they're putting it on sometimes a rigid ABS plate that resonates unwanted frequencies and buzzes in the door, or sometimes a plate that doesn't fit perfectly and you're not getting a good seal against the factory door, or other times that speaker's left out in the elements. So we came up with our own solution, and we use a jig like this, and it has their inner and outer circle, and we mount it in the plate, and then we aim using a laser, we aim it in the vehicle to get the best amount of imaging that we can out of that door. If God put our ears on our ankles, we could listen to a Chevy stereo and enjoy it. But unfortunately, manufacturers of trucks still keep putting speakers at our knees or ankles. And the best thing we can do is try to get that imaging up and maximize that. You put $1,000 speaker on a 15-cent ABS plate. That's not the best thing for the customer. And a little, dead sound does help, or a sound absorber mat does help. But, at the end of the day, we wanted to start and design from the ground up, utilizing the products that we have at hand. And we came up with our own urethane, low resonance, lightweight material that's strong and resonant free, has a very, very low resonant frequency, I think at 3 hertz. So it won't affect the speaker at all. And then we also accompany it with the system. We have a baffle that goes on the back of the speaker. And this baffle is our own design and our own material, our own resin, and it's acoustically transparent, which means that these door speakers, which are infinite baffle speakers, they're meant to be in a large airspace. They're not getting suffocated. They're not losing output like some of the other pods that are out there. There are solutions to protect the speaker, but unfortunately they take away from the sound, which is the opposite of what you want. So ours, they actually lower the FS slightly, so they do actually increase the sound a little bit. That makes it easier to tune, but at the same time, it's not making it any quieter. You're not losing output, and it's not unwantedly changing the speaker. And it's providing a waterproof, corrosion-proof environment that allows the speaker to live and breathe in that area. The adapter plates just bolt on the back of. So our speaker adapters and the pods will be sold separately, but they do bolt right on. We have allowances in the mold for the screw, so it's very easy to install, and you get a great sound every time. And and then of course the fitment on the front side to make sure we get a good seal against the factory door is also important to us. So we're utilizing that to make sure that we get everything the way we want it to work. So that from a ground up, all inside one means that you get the best fit and finish. You're not relying on 2 different manufacturers to get along, because they never do.
Now, moving on to another unique item in the Last Resort Fab catalog, A-pillar mounts. Now, you kind of have a reputation for these, so I'm excited to see what is it that you're offering dealers that are able to order custom A-pillar mounts.
Thanks. And, I think that it's our attitude towards not compromising and finding, we'd rather work harder to provide a better product than be lazy about it and provide a cheaper product. And so it did take some processes to come up with a good solution for A-pillars. But the emphasis on our A-pillars is they're 100% cast out of our own urethane resin that we make here in-house. It's a special resin that's not going to split when you use a hardware to bolt these speakers down. It's a very high quality. It won't fade. It won't chalk up, won't yellow over time. The finish is fantastic. So I have one here. You can see it's a piano black, gloss black finish. This is out of the mold. This is the finish you get. So we're able to spend very little time making these look better. So with the piano gloss finish and the mounts the way they are with the angle, so you can see kind of here on camera. So we've changed the shape and the design. We're kind of known for this kinked design, which is difficult to work around. But once you figure out how to get the grills and stuff to work with them, the kink design does limit the profile in the vehicle. You can see that this is for a F-150, and this one is about 1/2 inch thick, which is pretty small to have the amount of axis that we have. These are basically perfectly aligned on axis to what the vehicle needs. So there are no compromises. This is where like a serious SQ competitor, a very serious audiophile would want them aimed. So we're getting crazy angles and crazy alignment out of our A-pillars with a very minimal distraction of the driver. They're not sticking out. This is what the tier 1 product looks like. This is the entry level product, is a piano gloss finish. There's no grill, so we're relying on the manufacturer to provide the grill, or we just leave them out in the open depending on what the customer wants. But this is what the tier 1 product looks like. So piano gloss finish. The very important thing is these are pressure cast out of our own molds, which means that you don't have any fillers. There's nothing to go wrong. There's no glue to peel. There's no wrap to fall off. There's no paint to chip. If you're installing a speaker and you happen to accidentally scratch the surface, a quick little wet sand and polish with 800 grit and some good 3M polish, and that is back to gloss black, because it is gloss black all the way through. So if you have to grind or cut away from ours because you have a certain speaker that doesn't fit within our mold, you can actually sand, it's about at least 3/8 of an inch thick on all edges. So you can actually expand that yourself. You can use a router bit if you need. And you can do that and just polish it back, and it's piano gloss, and it only takes about 15 minutes to polish them up. It takes no time at all. So, and the most important thing that we're going to touch on is ease of install. So I always tell people that even if you're not a car audio person, these bolt on, and I don't know if the camera's going to show it, but I don't know if you can see the gap is perfect. Like there is no, like even the bottom side, the gap is flawless. Like that just goes on. And so all you need to do is we include a template. You drill up the little holes to match our template. There's little machine screw holes. I don't know if you can see those. So we include the machine screws. They go right in. They bolt in about 15 minutes. All you need is a Dremel or a hot knife. You follow our template. It includes everything, and there's no room for error or no room for failure. It's pretty dummy proof. And I always say that you don't need the installer to install our A-pillars. You can grab any. I'm going to catch flack for this, but you could grab any salesman from the front. And not saying that there aren't some talented sales guys out there, because I know there are, but I'm just joking. But the fact of the matter is you can put your green tech on the job, and if he follows their template, they go in first try, every try.
And that was Bryce Lewis, president of Last Resort Fab, giving us the lowdown on all these great innovative products that he's designing and manufacturing right here in Canada. I think it's hard to argue with his extensive experience in fabrication, what he's bringing to the table, and that edge and know-how. Being a technician himself, well, I think it's pretty evident in the design and the offering. Now, if you're interested in finding out more about these products, you're going to have to reach out to their distributor. That's Importel, importel.com. They are handling all the distribution for Last Resort Fab products in Canada. Now, on that note, I had no choice but to reach out to my good friend, the 12-volt Viking, Jaron Gelmalon, coming in the studio right now. Jaron, how awesome is it that you can distribute and offer a product of this caliber that's made right here in Canada to our Canadian dealers?
Yeah, top quality products, definitely the go-to for this. This is a top level box that's designed by Bryce to awesome specs. If you've ever seen any of Bryce's builds in person, he builds some amazing interiors, amazing systems and vehicles, and we love partnering with companies in Canada. As we all know, Canada's the greatest country in the world. I might get some flack for that, but shipping comes into play with this as well. Like, anyone that's shipped internationally, sub boxes, which is essentially mostly air that you're shipping, having a Canadian partner really cuts down on that cost of shipping. And also, we're getting a very top level product out of Bryce, like beautiful build quality, even all the way through all his tiers of boxes, but boxes that perform as well too. And Bryce touched on that throughout all the questions he answered from you, Ben, that they're still, at the end of the day, as good as they look, they're designed to sound great and produce the best sound out of the woofers that we carry at Importel.
That's a great segue into my next question for you, Jared. Now, obviously, there's a partnership here happening between Last Resort Fab and Importel. What kind of special advantage or packages, perhaps, are you designing or incorporating with Last Resort Fab to offer your dealers something a little bit extra special and really meant to perform, perhaps with drivers that you actually sell, for example?
Yeah, so we're partnering with Last Resort Fabrication and Importel to offer signature boxes for our dealers. So what a signature box means is that you're going to get a high build quality box that Bryce talked about, and they're designed specifically for the woofers that Importel sells. So you're removing some of that guesswork out of it or research that you're having to do. You find the specs of a woofer, optimum port length, tuning frequency, everything, airspace, and you're finding a box in a prefab that mostly checks all the boxes along the way. We're removing that guesswork. These are built and designed for these woofers optimum specs. And as Bryce talked about, he's getting the lowest tuning frequency possible that he can out of these boxes. So they're going to play very, very low. And he's gone as far to test them with Term Lab and has where that woofer is going to produce the best quality output out of it and show at the end of the day the best results for the customer out of our dealers, because at the end of the day the customer is the one listening to it, and giving them a great result is what you're looking for that customer. So having these signature boxes, whether it be for the Ground Zero subs or the Arcadio subs, that these boxes are designed with all their specs in mind, the FS, the F3, the tuning frequency needed for these boxes to perform to the best of their ability.
Now, no doubt, Jaron, you hinted at it before. Let's get some details. I mean, these are enclosures after all. They are big box, big items. Dealers are going to ask, I'm going to ask on their behalf, how is shipping work and what solutions do you have so that dealers can get a hold of these boxes wherever they may be in Canada?
Shipping on these boxes, they're going to be hefty boxes for sure. So you get into some of the signatures and the custom builds, and they're a very thick, hefty box. They need to be well protected in shipping. So those type of boxes are actually going to be boxed up in wooden crates, protected with foam, fit exactly for the enclosure that you're ordering. So there's no guesswork. This box is close enough. Everything's going to be built around that box to get the shipping to arrive in the best quality possible. Into the lower tier 2, tier 1 boxes, they're going to be shipped within cardboard boxes, but it's going to be double wall cardboard, still well protected, wrapped, everything foam around the woofer enclosure, so that it does arrive to the customer in perfect condition for your customer. They're spending a lot on these boxes, and you want them to arrive to you in pristine condition. And unfortunately, it's going to fall into our top tier of our shipping categories for prepaid levels, but dealers will understand that. And when you're shipping stuff, shipping isn't cheap at the end of the day. And we all got to ship stuff across the country, but it's coming from Canada, not the US. So that's one added bonus for sure.
And there you have it, guys. Brand new custom fabricated enclosures made right here in Canada by Bryce Lewis and his team at Last Resort Fabrication and being distributed by Importel. I want to give a big shout out to my boy Bryce, as well as Jaron, the 12-volt Viking, for coming in today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. This is CMA Networks presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM with over 150 channels in your vehicle. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.